You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network. Produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
Good morning. My name is Bill Maddox. I'm from Hermitage, Tennessee. I am one of the historic interpreters at Historic Manster Station in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. What I'm demonstrating here today at Fort Defiance for the Valentine's SEVIER days is the use and operation of a spring pole lathe for turning of treenware. And what I'm currently working on is a piece of sassafras that I'm hollowing out to make a bowl. This here's a pole lathe, or spring pole lathe, also known as a reciprocating lathe. These types of lathes, from what I've found, actually date back to ancient Egypt, France, England, Germany, Holland, throughout places, the Scandinavian provinces, even into northern Russia, is where we see these pole lathes really take off. We find that some of the latest use or documented use of these things, other than for a recreational aspect, was in the 1940s when a lot of the chair bodgers would set up out in the forest and very quickly turn out chair legs, spindles, items such as this for the local township's chair builders to come out and purchase these before they had totally dried out. I was stationed with my father in Athens, Greece for 3 years, and pretty much in the 1970s, Athens, Greece at that time was still working in a late 1930s, early 1940s method. So many of the outlying areas, even though they had electricity, many of the people there still preferred the old methods of manufacturing and taking care of things. At a very young age, it allowed me to be exposed to not only a birthplace of Western civilization as we know it today, but some of the many aspects of working with one's hands, working with one's feet, or as today as it's commonly called, working with green engines. After coming back from Dad's stationing overseas, when I came back, I just really couldn't find anybody over here that wanted to spend the time to talk with me or train me on how to do woodworking, so a lot of it I had to pick up on my own. And as time allowed, and as I graduated from schools and kept moving forward, trying to find those that were still into the early methods of doing things, every now and then somebody would say they just couldn't see the benefit of working a pole lathe. But every now and then you'd find somebody that was really interested in what was going on. So this is a hook knife, or a more of a bowl tool. Bowl hollowing gouge, if you want to refer to it as that. These particular tools started making an appearance on the market here about 13 years ago. And what I have here is I have a dual cutting edge, one on both sides. So depending on what I'm actually doing, whether I'm working on the outside or working on the inside of the bowl, this provides a very small, minute cutting edge that allows me to turn towards the inside of the bowl and actually speed up the hollowing out process. Now, by today's standards, when we compare it to our more conventional tools that we see that modern bowl turners use, you'll notice that there's a marked difference on it. Whereas we're usually working with a 45-degree cutting edge on this particular one here. This cutting edge here on this particular tool, the handmade tool, is set to the user's specific, what they wanted. And the nice thing about this is these here I manufactured out of a good 1095 steel. With utilizing the lathe, even with today's modern tools, it does work. It just usually requires just a little bit more thinking about it. You have to disengage to allow the piece long enough to rewind, but it is still very aggressive. So I usually tell folks, if you can acquire these other tools, use those. But if not, these you just have to learn each tool's, specific workings, its little nuances, how it likes to be used. Over the last 13 years, out of the 17 years that I've been at Mansker Station, my woodworking has actually come to fruition and blossomed. Many of the historic sites asked me to come out and do demonstrations, host demonstrations, actually do tutorials for their staff. And we always try to make it just as fun as possible, because this is usually just an introductory course that I'm bringing them into. But you'd be surprised though at how many of them will contact me back later and say, "Hey, Bill, this is what we're doing, and want you to come join us." Other than that, you will get your heart rate up depending on what you're doing. It does work great as far as cardio goes, so a lot of folks enjoy that aspect, and particularly the folks that do not have the money to buy the big expensive pieces of equipment that they think is absolutely necessary. When they come out and they see the simplicity of this one right here and how easy it is to disassemble and transport, they very quickly, this is what I want to do. It's not loud, I don't have to spend a lot of money on it, and look at what I can do.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.